Today, I'm going to talk about why certain contexts or activities can consistently seem challenging and what we can do about it. I mentioned in another talk about this idea of training elephants and how that can sort of limit your perception. So the the story goes that when they're training a baby elephant, they tie a rope around its neck, or they put a collar on it, and then they tie it to a little post, and so it learns to walk around. And whenever it's pulling away from the post, it feels a little tug, and it learns to stay within that range of that rope. And that's all well and good, but they keep doing it as the elephant grows. And finally, the elephant reaches a size and strength where it could easily pull the rope out of the ground. But it's been so trained to feel that little tug that it always stays within the confines of the length of the rope that they're using. And for better or for worse, at times we can act like elephants. If we get used to a certain level of competency in a particular context, like learning a particular topic, or meeting a challenge at work, or in learning, we can get used to a certain orientation in relation to that context. So let's say you're trying to learn math, and you really get crushed, like you're in way over your head, and you have a bad or you can't meet the challenge with math. If that happens a couple times, what can happen is our brain is getting used to this relationship of, okay, the context is this challenging and my ability is only here, so therefore I don't feel capable to meet that challenge. And what our brains can learn is that as our capability is growing, we're imagining that the challenge is getting bigger and bigger. Even though the challenge may be staying consistent, our brain has learned to adjust that sense of difficulty in our mind. So even though the challenge may be staying consistent and we should be way beyond it, our brain is magnifying the level of difficulty because our brain has learned the relationship of us in proportion to the challenge. So as our abilities grow, we're imagining the challenge is growing as well. So it's a good thing to notice. Another example of this that I heard about is that if you put a bunch of fruit flies in a jar and you put a like some saran wrap on it, they get used to bouncing off the saran wrap. Every time they fly up there, they turn around because they basically bounce back. And then apparently what happens is they get trained to that barrier, much like the elephant. And then when you take off the saran wrap, they'll still respect that boundary because they've internalized it in some way. So what do we do about this? Well, there are a couple of things. One thing is to actually learn how to test the boundaries of what you believe you can achieve. And you don't have to, it's not about doing something dangerous. It's really finding out where's your edge and testing, can I exceed that edge? But the other thing is to really invert that relationship in our mind. So if you were trying to learn something in math, using that as the analogy again, if you were to sit down to try to learn one very simple topic in math, and really give yourself all the resources that you can imagine that might be useful. It could be reading, it could be watching videos, but basically really stacking the deck so that you're going to get so well schooled in this thing that you're absolutely going to crush that one little thing that you're trying to learn. So now we're we're stacking the deck so that we so completely outgun this thing that we're trying to do. And we're teaching our brain, okay, the level of resources that I have is, drastically beyond whatever this challenge is offering me. And we want to teach our brain so that as the challenge starts to rise, our imagined capability is rising also. So that we're meeting each challenge not from a place of, oh my God, I feel weak, I feel incapable, etc., but feeling like, oh my God, I am going to crush this thing. So that's the first thing, is to invert that relationship, break the whatever you're trying to learn or take on, break it down to the smallest step possible, and then stack up your resources as much as possible. And this can be as little a thing as or seemingly little as when you decide to work on something. I noticed that a lot of times people try to take on challenges when they haven't slept enough, they haven't eaten properly, and so they're meeting the challenge depleted instead of meeting it when they're really ready to crush whatever the task is. And like I said, breaking down the task so the task is very small and coming at it with everything that you've got, so that you're teaching your brain to completely overwhelm whatever task is in front of you, and teaching your brain that kind of relationship, essentially training yourself to come to things like with the full spectrum of resources that you can bring to it. The other thing that's good to do here is to really find your edge. And like I said, play with testing that edge. It's like being the fruit fly and just poking that boundary to make sure, is it still there? And if it isn't, beginning to get free from it. I was driving recently, and I got stuck in a traffic jam, and then finally, when I got to where the accident was, I realized that the accident wasn't there anymore. They had already cleared it and everything, but because all these cars had been consistently slowing down, people hadn't learned to go quickly, right? So there was still this residual resistance there. And our sense of our own capability can be like that. It's like the resistance is gone, but we have to train ourselves to test that boundary and then really get used to walking past it again and again and again, so that we start to feel like, oh no, this is something that I can really, really crush. So again, just to recap, when you find yourself, or if you find yourself feeling disempowered in relation to something, just notice, like, okay, are you feeling overwhelmed by that particular activity? And if that's the case, flip the relationship, stack all the resources and dominoes in your favor, break down the task so you're only taking on a teeny thing, and teach your brain the relationship of completely overwhelming whatever it is you're trying to do. And it's amazing. You can start to really speed up what you're able to take on. And by the way, this works really, really well when it comes to physical exercise as well. If you think about it, if you're thinking, oh, I gotta go to the gym and it's going to be hard and it's going to be like just more than I can handle, invert that relationship for a while, lower the bar of what you're going for, and go like ready to crush it, go get it done, and then get out of there. And eventually your physical body and your mind get acclimated to taking on much, much greater challenges.